Hello, thank you for joining me today. I'm Alexi Bailey, and I have Melissa Pranzo here today, and this is the Tell It Like It Is podcast. How are you today, Melissa?
I'm doing great. Thank you. I am so excited to be here. I'm so excited that we reconnected after all this time, between COVID and not running anymore and all of that. I'm just excited to be here. So thank you for having me.
Yes, awesome. So we're connected from New York City, the running capital for us.
Yep. That's where we met because we were running. I think it was because we were both running the George Washington Bridge. That's how it started. And there was that path up there. And I think I wimped out because I have a bridge fear. So I made it to the end of the bridge. I made it to the bridge, but I wouldn't go over the bridge. And then we were training for the New York Marathon for the first one that I think we both did, or like something like that. And there's 5 bridges, of course. And I was trying to get over my bridge fear. And that's where we met because you guys were doing that one run, that 6 miles all the time. So I was like, I'm going to come, I'm going to do it. And I never did. I never made it over that bridge.
So this is 2015 we're talking about.
I think so. Yeah.
I'm sure. Yep, that was 2015. How did the marathon go for you that year?
That year was amazing. I mean, I love running. I love running. Running is my peace. It's my solace. It's my place where I decompress and where I then regroup and make things happen, I guess you could say. So when I haven't been able to run, and we'll probably get into that, but when I haven't been able to run for the last year and a half or so, it was even harder for me because that's my place. And running a marathon and running the New York Marathon is like, it's a party. There's so much energy. And it's the New York City Marathon. It's like the greatest city on the world. And you're running 26, you wind up running like 29 miles with all the zigzagging. Nobody tells you that when you're training though, right? Nobody says, no, you're really running like 29 or 30 miles and you're like 26.2. I can do 26.2. 30? Are you kidding me?
It's in the fine print.
Right, exactly. Yeah, right. Donuts, beer along the way. It's great. It's a great race.
So how many of those have you done?
Marathons, New York City marathons. I ran 3, I believe. I think I ran 3. I ran 3 marathons, but I ran like 50 something races when I was living in New York. I ran a ton of races, mostly because I was a part of Team for Kids. Which for those of you who don't know who are listening, that's an organization that sponsors running programs and athletic programs in the public schools all around New York City and across the country and even some places in Africa as well. But it just happened that there was a program in Cooper's, my son's then elementary school, and that's how I kind of got involved with it. And I ran every single race that I ran with Team for Kids, and we'd raise money to cover our fees or whatever else it was. So that's how I kind of got involved. And every time I would run a race, they would be like, oh, there's this next race and there's next race. And how can you say no? It's kids, right? Kids and running. Like you can't say no, right?
So is that how you started running?
No. I've been a runner I've been an athlete my whole life. My mom was pretty adamant about making sure that both myself and I have an older sister were athletes and that we were engaged in activity. I mean, and we played sports. Like I even played squash. I mean, I played everything that you could possibly do. I figure skated, I played ice hockey, soccer, lacrosse, tennis, you name it, we did it.
Where did you start?
I'm sorry?
Where did you grow up?
I grew up partially in New Jersey, and then eventually my family moved into New York City. So my younger years, like my elementary years, were all in New Jersey. And then my teenage and adult years were in New York City. So
how was that transition for you when you played all those sports in New Jersey?
It really didn't bother me because I went away for high school. So it was something that a lot of families were doing at the time, that we were kind of in our little group or whatever. And a lot of us went away to school. It wasn't like, we were bad kids or something. We got sent away for discipline problems, but it was just an experience, right? So I went away for high school for 4 years. I went to a school called Westminster School in Simsbury, Connecticut. And it was amazing. Like it was really, I would say if you're going to get prepared for college, there's no better way to do it than to go away for high school, because when you get to college, nothing's a shock. I mean, nothing's a shock, right? You're just like, okay, I'm here, I'm living here. Where do I eat? It's really that simple. And at boarding schools, there's a tremendous amount of athletics, a tremendous amount of sports. So I've always been a sports girl. Like I don't remember a time that I haven't done something. And running was the one thing that carried me all the way through life, right? Because it's the one sport that you really always have access to. Like even living in New York City, you go out, you run on the streets, right? You always have access to that. Even if you can't afford the gym, you can get out and you can run.
So did your sister go away as well to boarding school?
She did not. She opted to stay. She had the opportunity, but she opted to stay.
Yeah. What was
But
your sport?
her favorite sport or my favorite sport?
Your favorite sport?
Oh gosh. I'd say a tie between ice hockey and lacrosse. I loved both of those very much. Lacrosse was just very freeing, and ice hockey was just bad. You're in there. It was just fun.
I think sports when you're young, it shapes your life in an interesting way.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think we need more studies on that. Like an athlete, they have discipline, they have less time for the stuff that teenagers waste time on. They're more busy, they're more athletically inclined, they have a better sleeping schedule, you're inclined to eat better. Like it's a no-brainer.
I agree. I think life needs sports.
Right.
I think it's a training. It's a training on how to play nice with the other kids in whatever sandbox it is, right? Like you're learning to overcome challenges, and then there's always somebody who's better than you, right? It's a unique kind of competition, and it's also very much about bettering yourself and having discipline to be able to do these things that you need to do in order to better your skill set, right? It's not so much like if you read these 6 books, you will pass the test, right? It's a little different. It's really very much about your physical being and your mental health and everything about you. And my son, who's 15 now, he's a baseball player, and that's what he wants to do. And he's extremely disciplined. And there are other kids who like baseball. They're not so disciplined. So it really, it depends on your likes and your dislikes, but I honestly believe life needs sports 100%.
And you get out of it what you put into it.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, you do.
Where did you go to college?
I went to undergrad at Georgetown University, and then I did my graduate work at University of Chicago.
What did you want to study, or what were you studying?
What was I studying? What did I study that kind of I use now, right? At Georgetown, I studied business and languages. To be honest, I studied the language part because I took a bunch of languages in high school and from when I was very little, in Italian and Spanish and French. And so it was a really easy transition. It was a really easy thing for me to do. The business, because I wanted to set myself up in the best way possible to make money. I'm a very money motivated individual. It's just part of who I am. And so like most people, I went to Wall Street after I graduated from college. You go to business and that's where you wind up. And they also pay you the most. Very tough road, not the road for me.
Where did you end up working?
I wound up at a bank that no longer exists. It was called Firm and Sells. It then got bought out, when all the banks kind of collapsed onto each other. I think now it's part of Bank of America somewhere. I honestly don't know. But I wound up somewhere in there. But I started off there, and I kind of moved to marketing and publishing. And then I went to graduate school for, believe it or not, I went for business and computer science. And I did that because at the time, I'm not dating myself, but at the time, there weren't a lot of computer science degrees out there. There weren't a lot of people that understood technology. So I figured if this was something that I wanted to get into, all these startups and all these other things, that I should know something and at least document it. So I went really to document what I already knew. So I did that. And then I came out, and really I got married soon after that. my first marriage. Got married soon after that, and had my son. 9/11 happens, like all these other things happened. And, when my marriage did split up, I wound up in a situation where it was sink or swim, really. Like I had nothing. I had no money. I had nothing. It was me and a 6-month-old baby.
You were a stay-at-home mom, or that was?
No, I was still working. I never stopped working. But at that time I became a stay-at-home mom really for the fact that I didn't have any money to be able to do anything else. I had to. I couldn't afford I think it was $2,200 a month in New York City to send an infant to daycare.
Yeah.
So, and that was, Cooper's 15 now, just to give you an idea, right? So it was just, I didn't have it at the time. So I wound up reaching out to all these guys I went to business school with, and all these guys who were then working for venture capitals. And I was like, I knew that startups didn't have offices, so I wouldn't need to go anywhere. I could do it from home, right? So I pieced together little jobs from these startups. That's kind of how it started. That's really how my entrepreneurial evolution started, was out of need. 100% need, because I had to figure it out, right? And that business took me through 10, 11 years of being a single mom in New York City.
So you stayed in New York?
I stayed in New York. I stayed there until July of 2016. We moved to Florida. We'll be in Florida 5 years this August. I actually drove into Tampa on August 1st, 2016.
Okay. You met your new husband when?
After I moved to Florida. So he's here in Florida. And I met him after, because when I moved to Florida, my son's a baseball player, as I mentioned, and it's a little different here in how they run sports, and they run sports up in New York City. It's more intense. And there were a lot of these workouts that were going on. So and I found it disturbing that my then 10-year-old was doing a CrossFit style workout and pushing 45-pound sleds as a baseball player. Second of all, as a child, like and he would complain. He'd be like, my knees hurt, my this hurts. There were all these issues. So I'm like, this is ridiculous. So I went out and I got my certified as a trainer. I did all of that, and I created a program called Swing Fit. And I loved Swing Fit. Swing Fit was like the coolest thing I'd ever done. And it was hard because I had to convince people.
So that he can be in shape for baseball.
For that, and for any swing sport. It became about swing sports in general, because the program just
came from.
Yeah, but that's where the idea came from. Yeah. I really wanted to help these kids who were, I felt, being abused by doing workouts for adults, and football players that were 5 times their size.
Right.
I just didn't understand, and they were getting growth plate injuries and other injuries that really were unnecessary. Right.
So at that point, were you certified in anything? Did it?
Yes. So I was certified in something called rotational movement training. So, which was swinging is rotation, right? So it made sense. And I used these clubs.
What made you get into that?
It was really all about kids. It was really all about these kids who.
I'm trying to say, what came first? How did you get to that point where you have this swing rotation license, you're coming up with ideas? Was it just being with him all the time? Was it your background in athletics? Was it a combination? Did someone say, hey?
Oh, I see. Yes, I think it probably was a combination of all those things. And I saw the need, so I saw the business, right? So I saw several different things. I saw the need, right? And I wanted to solve the problem, right? So that business solved the problem, and that business was growing, and it was doing actually fairly well up until I was diagnosed with breast cancer, which at that point I couldn't swing a club. I couldn't swing anything anymore. So it kind of ended there. But
to Florida in the first place?
Combination of things. I love New York City. I am a diehard. I love New York City. I love everything about New York City. And my son, even though he was born and raised in New York City, he wasn't really a New York City kid. That wasn't really what was best for him. And every time I'd kind of save enough money to buy something, some Duke of Dubai would come and buy 6 city blocks and raise all everything. And I just couldn't keep up anymore. And moving to the Tampa Bay area was not only a 55% off sale, right? I mean, but it literally, right? Like, but, it was just the lifestyle, and I could afford to buy something here. I could afford to do some of the things that I wanted to do. And at the time I was still making the same money. So it was a very nice transition. It was great.
Working from home for the last 10 years,
I have been.
when it came time for home ownership, it was more practical to go to down south.
Correct.
Okay. I mean, you sound like a really good mom right now, like you've been on top of your athlete son and you tried to give him everything he needs to perform and thrive. And I think Florida's a good place for baseball.
That's fantastic. I mean, that's what my new other half does. That's what Jesse Litch is, and he used to play for the Toronto Blue Jays. So he was a former Major League Baseball player. We met through Swing Fit, actually, through my fitness business. He's not anymore with all this, craziness, but every year he had a charity golf tournament. And one of the financial sponsors was the coach on a high school baseball team. And so I trained that high school baseball team in Swing Fit. It's like, hey, do you want to come and do this? And I said, sure, I'll come and demo Swing Fit or whatever, whatever you want me to do. I'll sponsor, I'll do whatever. Great exposure. And that's where Jesse and I met. And we've been together ever since.
So this was after you moved to Florida.
Correct.
You continued doing the business, kept it organic, and life happens. You met someone while doing the work.
Right.
That's an amazing story.
Thank you.
So at some point, you designed the business and you were doing Swing Fit in Florida.
Correct.
And everything's going well. You're knocking on all the right doors. You have a little bit of momentum, and then the unexpected happens.
Correct.
So how did you find out? Was it routine or?
It was routine. And I had dense breasts, which meant that there was always ridges and bumps, and I always had to go back a second time. So usually the way a mammogram works is you get the mammogram, and then if they can't see everything or they don't like something, you go back for an ultrasound. So that was standard fare for me. Boom, boom. I would always do that. So when they said you have to come back a second time, I was like, okay, why couldn't we have just done it all the first time? But I went back. And then it came back again and they said, look, you need to get a biopsy. So they biopsied. And then after a biopsy, my biopsy came back.
What year is this?
This was 2019.
Okay.
Sorry. This was 2019. And in 2019, I was still running Swing Fit. I had gotten my real estate license. I was doing a lot of stuff. It wasn't just about, apologies. It wasn't just about Swing Fit anymore. I had started, my real estate business was taking off. Like a lot of other things were coming together. And of course, it was Jesse and I. Bought a house, and then I get this diagnosis with something called invasive lobular carcinoma. So invasive lobular carcinoma, only about 10% of breast cancers are ILC, as they call it. And it's called the sneaky bastard of breast cancer because it's flat. It's like, it's not a lump. So I wouldn't have recognized it necessarily. I wouldn't have been like, oh, that's what this lump, it wasn't like that. And it's also because of that, when the next steps are, they do an MRI and they do a sonography, they do all these other tests. It actually, my tumor didn't show up in either of those. So, but they knew it was there because they biopsied it. So, but it didn't show up in any other scan. Then it turned out, so I elected to have a bilateral mastectomy, have both of my breasts removed because I figured if they didn't know where it was and the one that they knew there it was, maybe it could be in my left breast because God knows, right? So I had that done in February of 2020. And when they did the post-op forensics or whatever you want to call it, turned out I had 5 tumors in my right breast and they only saw 1.
Wow.
Yeah. And the type of cancer I have is usually seen in older postmenopausal women. And I didn't fit into any box with this cancer. And it's also more aggressive. I had a very non-aggressive cancer, which all good things, right? Like all the good things I got. It feeds off of hormones, a good thing. Like if you could get a good breast cancer, I got the good kind. I got sort of like a goodish kind of thing.
You caught it early.
They caught it early. My largest tumor was 5.5 centimeters though, which is considered a large cancer once you get past 5 centimeters. But because of all the other stuff, they left me in the stage 1B area. They didn't put me in a more aggressive stage. I had no lymph node involvement. I was very lucky. I was very, very lucky, all things being equal. Where I was unlucky was during that surgery, I contracted something called Pseudomonas. So Pseudomonas is an infection that you only get at the hospital, and it is a super bug. There's staph, there's MRSA, and then there's Pseudomonas. And it ate away my chest cavity. So I spent literally the next year dealing with multiple surgeries to remove scar tissue, I had expanders as part of my reconstruction, remove expanders, replace expanders. I had a PICC line with intravenous antibiotics. I had all these things that just kind of all revolved around this infection. And at the same time, they're trying to figure out how to treat me because I don't fit in any data box for cancer. So I'd say by the time they figured out how to treat me, it was probably around this time last year, I'd say, okay. Where they started with my treatment, which I will be on for the next 9 years now. So I started on that treatment. I did not do chemotherapy, so I don't look like a cancer patient, but I am,
It's been a tough year.
It was a very tough year, very tough.
Now, was having things shut down, was that helpful for you or? Initially,
yes, but Florida opened up earlier than anywhere else,
yeah.
Right? Yeah. So we were open in, I think May of last year, we might've been open around this time last year. I think we were opening. So what happens then, right? Baseball, right? Baseball starts up again, and I want to make sure you can still, there you go. So baseball starts again, and my son goes out with Jesse was his coach at the time. So the two of them were gone, and hindsight being 2020, it was actually, it was better. And it wasn't better because I don't love them with every ounce of my being. It was better because I needed to deal with myself, and I needed to learn how to accept what was happening to my body because I looked like a bad Google image. I did. I really, really did. I looked like every woman's nightmare. And I didn't want anybody else there. So it all worked out because I don't think it would have been harder for everybody, I think, if they'd been home more,
Yeah. So this was a time to heal, to find yourself, reconnect, do some soul searching, self-evaluation. And what came out of all of that?
I guess resilience. I guess the ability to look at things and not be so worried all the time, manage stress in a much different way. Not that I was a fatalist or anything, but I definitely have a different way of looking at life because I know how bad it can get. Been broke, check. near-death experience, check. You know?
Absolutely. Um, so my dad, when we moved to America, he lived in Miramar, Florida,
Mhm.
which is South Florida. He was down there. So when I came up in 1994, I lived in South Florida with him, Miramar, from 94 to 96.
No kidding.
Then I came to New York. And I was in New York for a long time. And then my dad married someone who lived in New York. So he moved up to New York.
Mhm.
So, long story short, he's been in New York now. He was in New York for a good 10, 15 years. And he decides he wants to go back to Florida. So I have a lot of connections in Florida. We go back and forth.
Mhm.
And he was in the military, and along the way, he got cancer. So he had a cancer in the speech center of the brain.
Oh,
Yeah, and he did some biopsies and, chemos, and he went through a lot of things with that. And the thing was that his initial diagnosis was all the way back in 2005. So he had the diagnosis and kept doing the treatment. You know how it is. It was something that never went away.
mm.
So we never knew what was, you know, how bad it was, because it's in the brain and they can't cut it out, and it's a lot of, well, we think kind of, he's responding to this. So you never really know. We went a long time just kind of wishing and hoping, never knowing what the real reality is.
So hard.
So he went a solid 10 years like that.
Mhm.
And there was so many, there's so much anxiety that gets triggered, from the first time you heard I have cancer. Well, what's the treatment? And you're like, well, is this a 6-month thing? All of these things are going through your mind. And, the first biopsy, you're like, oh my gosh. Then the second and you're like, all this chemo, then he has a seizure. So by the end, I was like, I saw life completely different. And that's what you're saying, how these journeys, the little things don't matter the way they do. A 2-year-old will cry for a toy or an ice cream. An adult is trying to make a business and get money, but there's a point when it's just your health, and that's the most important thing. So coming out of that realization, it kind of gives you a new awakening.
It does. It does. For sure. It gives you, and it makes you it gives you pause before you choose, I guess is really what I'm saying. And I'm really lucky, I mean, I have a fantastic family. I have a lot of support. Um, and I have friends here who are like my sisters. I'm very, very lucky. I mean, I have a friend who came and did my laundry after my third surgery, third or fourth. I remember it was my third or my fourth surgery, but I couldn't move my arms. Like my arms I've just recently been able to do this.
Okay.
Like my arms have just not functioned properly for over a year. And even now, I was just on a retreat for a company that I'm working with now, which I think we're going to talk about. But I was just on this retreat and they had yoga. And I was like, oh, I'm afraid to go do yoga because I'm afraid I'm going to splat on my face and my arms,
Yeah,
I was like, I'm going to break my nose and on the beach, because my arms just don't, I have no upper body strength left.
but things are coming back slowly now.
Yeah, and actually after I've had so many surgeries now, I tend to lose count, but I think it was after my third or my fourth surgery. My childhood friend who I've literally known, I mean, I don't remember, her name's Amanda, and I've known her I don't remember any life without her. Like I've known her that long, since we were little tykes. She messaged me actually on Facebook and she's like, hey, there's this new athleisure company that I'm working with. do you want to take a look at it? You're like a fitness athletics person. I'm like, sure. So turned out the company's name is Savvy, Savvy Lifestyle Company. And at the time we didn't have a lot of it. We didn't have a lot of products. And this was only in October. Okay. So there weren't a lot of products. There wasn't a lot out there, but I mean, it's athleisure, right? We're all sitting, and look what I'm sitting in the Zoom right now, right? I'm sitting here with, this is what everybody sits on their Zooms with, right? We're all doing this right now. It's like a single $1 billion industry now. And it's projected to be a $257 billion industry in the next 5 years. Like, no brainer, right? My business hat. Okay, sure, I'm in. Let's go. So I joined the company. And of course, it's a direct sales company, but they're disrupting direct sales and they're disrupting the clothing industry, which I find extremely intriguing for my business mind, right? So unlike most direct sales company, which have kind of a crap reputation, right? This company isn't about silos, right? I mean, everybody's got a team. Of course, because that's part of how you make money in direct sales. It's how part of any company makes money, right? The CEO hires people to work for him and they hire people to work for them, right? It's the same kind of thing here, right? But we're all doing the same activity versus a regular standard company, right? But the clothing is phenomenal. The experience is phenomenal. It sells itself. And I'm having the time of my life. I tell you, it's refreshing to be around a place that starts from a place of love. So it starts from a place where, if you want to do this with me, I'm going to help you. I'm not going to just have you buy in and leave you sitting on the side, because I don't care where you come from. I don't care what you look like. I don't care I don't care. I just care that you're you, come as you are, which is so rare for women to hear. Like, we never hear come as you are. We go, okay, by the way, you need to fix your nose, get a boob job and lose 20 pounds. And then we can talk to you, right? Then you're going to be worthy. Or you can't go online for your dating picture. You can't do all these things unless you look a certain way. And that's not what this company is about. It celebrates women as we are. And I truly, on this leadership retreat I was just on in Cancun, I truly saw that. I got a chance to talk to investors. I got a chance to talk to the leadership. I got a chance to talk to the founders. I got a chance to talk to everybody who I would possibly, my business hat wanted to talk to. And then I got to play with those same people and hang out in the pool and just have a good, clean, fun, and feel good about myself again. And it had been a long time before I truly accepted myself. I may look a certain way, but this is hard to accept,
right?
Because this is not how I've been, and this is not how I came out. This is not where we started the whole shindig, and my arms, my strength, my scars, and I got more hugs and more smiles. And I mean, we hang out in this stuff all the time. This is what we wear. This is what we do. This is what girlfriends, wives, daughters, nieces, grandmas, this is what we wear.
I'd love to pick your business mind. Now, prior to this project, what else have you done?
Oh, marketing company where I dealt with incubators and startups, some of them, abroad, some of them here.
You're selling incubators to hospitals?
No. I'm sorry. Startup incubators. So I dealt specifically when I was younger, when I first started all my business, my marketing business, I dealt specifically with startups because then I wouldn't have to go to an office. So in a time
for startups.
Correct. That was what I did. And also a lot of startups needed somebody who knew some finance people, and I had those connections. And after 9/11, it was very difficult for people from certain countries to come into this country and do those interviews. So when you're looking for capital and raise capital, you needed somebody here because it would take you 6 months to get here, and then you could stay for a week, and you need to stay here for 6 months to raise capital.
Right.
So I did that. And I did that for a long time. And I worked like for various different companies too, regular companies. Like I worked with Publishers Clearinghouse. I worked with a company called Talkspace, which is now a huge company. I worked with Game Changer. I worked with, briefly, I had with Instacart, briefly with, I can just go on and on.
I feel like you have your own projects, your own ideas in mind. Have you had any good ideas?
I don't know. I don't know if I've had any good ideas.
You sound really strong, like you really have a strong business sense. You sound like the wheels are always turning.
They are.
And I'm saying, hey, you know, which of your own ideas have you put on the shelf that I'm curious about?
I don't know. I kind of get a new idea every minute. So, I mean, I really do. And I'm not meaning that like I'm trying to avoid your question.
Yeah, right.
I know what it's like to start a company and to start a business. And that's really why I am doing Savvy, right? Because I don't have to put any of the pieces together. It's all right there for me. I don't have to figure out how to get a piece of clothing made, designed. I don't have to manage distribution. I don't have to build a website. I don't even have to build an app. All I have to do is wear the clothing and tell people about it. That's all I have to do. And that means that I can go to my kid's baseball game and I can go and do other things rather than putting in the time and the effort, which it is. When you start your own business, it is literally like giving birth to another child.
Right.
You can't leave it. And then you get obsessed with it and you're constantly working on it and making it better and loving it and caring it and wondering why nobody else loves and cares about it the same way that you do. And
you've crunched the numbers. What do you need to do to make the kind of money you want to make from Savvy?
So there's several different ways that you make money with Savvy. One is strictly retail, right? So we're basically all wholesalers. And as what they call a brand partner, I buy my clothing at wholesale. And I can either resell what I buy at retail, or I can just point somebody to the app or to my website and say, you buy it yourself. And then I don't have to do anything, which is the preferred way. Then I don't have to do anything, right? It's like going to Amazon, right? You're going to go to Amazon and shop. You go to the Savvy Shop app and you shop. So I make money that way. I'm building a team of people who are wearing the clothing and sharing it with others, right? And telling people about it. And those people, I make a percentage of what they make. And so would my boss if I had a regular sales job, right? So I get my commission and then they get their commission and then the guy above gets his commission, same thing here, right? So my mission is to really share with others, okay? Share the community that Savvy is building, because it truly is a community first. I think that was accidental. It just happens that the community of people that are being pulled together is huge and special. I think to create such pure acceptance of other human beings, and something that's so missing right now in the world, it's unique, and it's a feeling that I want every single person that I ever meet to know. Because everybody deserves to feel the way I feel when I'm with and when I'm working with Savvy people.
I'll be honest with you. One of the things, like I've had a few people approach me about direct marketing opportunities. And my thing is, why do I have to pay to start selling?
Okay, that's a fair question. Two reasons. Number one, if you are going to start basically your own business, you have to invest in yourself, right? Because you're basically asking for the opportunity to work for yourself, but not by yourself. Okay. So the thing with corporate America is they kind of tricked all of us, right? So like the Great Depression happened in 1929, and out of that came a bunch of guys that got together and they developed this thing called a salary. And the salary was how they gave security to people, right? So they said, okay, we're going to make $100 off of everybody, but we're going to pay them 20. right? But they're going to feel better because they know they're going to get the $20. So it creates a ceiling for you, right? So when you invest in yourself, like if you take a self-development course, or if you go to a training, right, and you pay that money, you're sitting there and you're taking notes and you're doing all that. It's the same thing with direct sales, right? It's direct because there's nobody in between you and the customer, right? So you're basically investing in yourself, and you're getting to buy products at a discount. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'm a brand partner of other companies, but I don't necessarily sell it, but I get my discount. I get my discount, and that's one kind of person for that company, right? And we have people who do that here at Savvy. We also have people who maybe are still retail customers, but they buy a lot, right? Maybe they have 4 girls, 4 teenage girls. So it makes sense maybe to buy in at a mid-level because they're going to get a 25% discount. They get a bigger shopping credit off the bat. Or there's people who really want to do business, or there's people who have boutiques and you buy your product at wholesale as a boutique no matter what.
Let me ask you, what would you think, would this model be beneficial for a Nike or the bigger guys?
They're so big now that I don't know that it would be beneficial because they don't necessarily, actually, let me rephrase that. They already have this model. The difference is that they don't pay people for it. Okay. So every time you see, they pay the stars, right? Like Michael Jordan and all that, they pay them their cut, right? But you and me, when we wear our cute Nike sneakers, or we have on a shirt or whatever it is, I mean, happens all the time, right? Somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey, Alexi, I really love that shirt." Or, "Hey, Alexi, cool sneaks," right? "Oh yeah, I got them at, Overstock or wherever you got them, Oh yeah, Nike's having a sale. You should head over there." Is Nike paying you 25% to do that? Is Nike paying you 1% to do that? But Nike's not paying you anything to do that, right? So that's the difference between social selling, which is actually how we move product at Savvy, and what all those big companies are doing. They get it already. It's brand recognition, right? Mm-hmm. So I mean, that's all I do. Like, somebody's going to say to me, "Oh, Melissa, that's a cute neon bra. Where'd you get it?" "Oh, here's my link." They buy it, done.
So in the age of social influencers, maybe big companies should be offering social seller links to brand influencers online, or more of the big guys.
They do, right? But the difference again is that because first of all, there's so many middlemen along the way. And second of all, they pay those influencers, 5%, 8%, if they pay them at all.
Right.
Right. No, they might just send them free stuff.
What we're talking about, Melissa, is, we're thinking out loud about the business model. Because I do think that, Toys R Us going out of business was the writing on the wall. Okay. You can have one Walmart, but you're not going to have, 6, like Petco. Walmart has what Petco has in its pet shelves, on its pet aisle. So instead of going to Petco, you can get your groceries done, you can get your pet done, you can get your auto care done, you can get all of this done at Walmart. Why am I going to stop at Toys R Us? The toys are right here in Walmart. And I think Toys R Us going under was the writing on the wall for that. A lot of these companies, they're relying on brand recognition to just keep selling their product forever. And I do think that we're in the future of influencers. And I think influencers are getting wiser to the fact that I'm not wearing Jordans if I'm not going to get paid. I'm not going to wear X, Y, and Z if I'm not going to get paid. So something like Savvy, I'm going to wear Savvy because I'm going to get paid. So I think that at some point, companies like Nike will say, "Here's a link, if you want to, and something for everybody." So I was just getting your thoughts on that.
I honestly don't know. But I think that what you're talking about is already happening with the influencers, and it's in the form of an affiliate program, right? Mm-hmm. So Target has one on, they all have these affiliate programs. They just pay such a fraction of the price that you have to sell so much in order to make any money.
Right.
Like you have to do direct sales because that way you literally are, it goes from the factory to customer.
Exactly.
Like that's the model. And these other big companies, they're not designed that way yet. So the fraction that they pay is because in some cases, that's what they can afford, right? Despite how big they are, because their product chain, right? Their chain from creation to market is just too deep. And I don't know that some of them can really alter that unless they created an entirely new company, an entirely new brand, and that's how they market it. I agree with you that I think social selling is the way of the future, and which is why I think Savvy is at the top of that curve right now, because the entire company is based upon social selling and community. So it's, and they have this, every Friday we have a consumable fashion event. So rather than, putting up a sale, right? They have a new fashion drop is what it's called in fashion. So that's when new items are released every Friday, and it's designed to sell out. So it's fun. And it literally has turned fashion into a consumable item. So it's these types of things that Nike probably doesn't even blink at yet. But
no, I do think it's the future, because everything now is about content. So you're doing that selling out event, it's content,
Yeah.
It can't hurt Nike to get involved in something like that. And these other companies, because they need more engagement. You can't just have still pictures of models anymore. It's just not the same.
That's
And
a good point.
yeah, I think Nike would love to get more into that. I think that would be a good project for us to pitch to Nike a social selling project. I'm serious, because Nike's looking to be on the cutting edge, and they want to. And Nike's no longer going through third parties like Amazon, and they're trying to do more direct to customers. And obviously everyone knows Nike, but how do you generate attention? How do you make it so that you can have continuous growth like they're all interested in? I think it's worth exploring.
Yeah, I mean, it is the way of the future. I 100% agree with you on that. I just those companies are it would be a project, yes.
I think Savvy is good, but a lot of people are willing to spend an extra $30 just to have the name, not even the quality. They just want that sport bra to be Nike. And it's one of those things, like, you're going to have practical people and you're going to have smart people, but I think there's a point when you're working out, you're looking good, and you're about to hit the town, and you're like, Savvy or Nike, you know? Savvy might be that comfortable piece that you wear all the time, but when you're ready to go out, you're like, oh, I want to wear my Nike. And
I don't know about that, to be honest, because
I'm not saying that's for everyone, but I'm saying that that's something that, for those kinds of people who spend that kind of money, that's their thinking.
it depends, right? This is a company that's a year old, so it doesn't have the brand capital that a Nike does, and it will have the brand capital. So I am more likely to hang my hat with a Savvy than I would be with a direct sales Nike, because Nike doesn't need me. A new brand that's coming out of the gate and I'm one of the first, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And because Nike doesn't need me, Nike will eventually probably screw me over, because Nike doesn't need me, right? So it's different. I'm not saying that your idea is poor. I'm just saying that Nike doesn't need it, versus a new company that's growing, that's excited, that's got quality, that's doing all these things and is going to be a global brand, right? You've got Lulu, you've got Athleta, you've got all these brands that started somewhere, right? And now everybody knows those brands, right? Everybody knows who they are. And it's just a matter of creating a household brand. Nike's already up there, right? We're just here. So if I'm going to hang my hat somewhere, I'm hanging my hat here so I can be part of this, versus trying to come up here and break into it. If
Right.
Nike wants to do social selling, they'll go and they'll pay some influencers, and they don't need to because they got the MLB guys, they got all their pro athletes. They don't need me. They sponsor them, they pay them 20 grand, they go out, they wear the stuff, they give them some free stuff, and everybody's happy.
Yeah.
Right. So they do social selling. They just have their cost structure is different. They don't have 1,000 people. They have 1,000 celebrities.
If someone wants to get in Savvy, what's the next step?
You can reach out to me. You can find me at Melissa Pranzo, MELISSA and I can be more than happy to go through all the different brand partnership structures. There's 3 different ways to get involved. We call them good, better, best. And they all have the same components. It just depends on where your comfort level in terms of how you want to experience Savvy. Do you want to be a customer? Do you want to be a customer only? Do you want to be a retail customer? Do you want to be more than just a retail customer? Do you want to get a discount? And, maybe, if your friend likes what you wear, give them a $25 coupon once in a while. That's one level. That's about $250. And you get coupons, you get our back office, you get your website, you get your app, and you get $150 shopping credit. So every level that you come in at has those components. It just depends on how much of those components you get. And it's a super simple process. We have incredible training. Literally, we show you everything that you need to do. And it isn't like it's not rocket science. You don't have to know a thing about sales. You don't have to know a thing about clothing. All you have to do is be you and come as you are, and we'll get you started. We'll take care of you. And
it's a long-term commitment.
No, I don't think it's a long-term. It's not a commitment per se. It's what you want to do. Right. I don't want to use that word because there's no contract. There's no, we're not going to put handcuffs on you and say, you may never wear anything else. Like, no, it's not like that. It could be compliments to your existing pieces, right? Like maybe you just like the sports bra line and that's what you talk about. Maybe you like everything and you talk about everything, and that's what I do, right? Maybe you're a customer and or maybe you don't wear leggings and you just want to wear the athleisure side. You like joggers and you like cool sweaters and sweatshirts and things. It's all about you and what you want to do, and that's what makes Savvy special and different.
We've definitely, I think, shifted culture from jeans to leggings.
Oh, I see. You're talking about the Epiphany company. I'm sorry. Is this echoing for you? I don't know anything about that, to be honest, because I joined in October. I'm sorry.
There was a time when you wore a lot of jeans.
Oh, when I personally wore a lot of jeans.
Right. And I think
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I did. I still wear jeans. I had them on the other night. Now
we're, like on a Saturday morning, we're just throwing on some leggings and heading out, kind of.
Well, I mean, my lifestyle has changed. I'm not going somewhere that's necessarily air conditioned. I'm sitting outside in a baseball field. 99% of the time I'm putting on what I'm going to wear to work out or run later.
Right.
Because I don't want to change 16 times. I don't have that in me anymore. I'm putting on one outfit and the next time I change, it's going to be into my cozies for bed. But I wear everybody I think wears lots of different brands and everybody has a choice, right? So no matter what you sell, I mean, even if you sell shaving cream, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe there's somebody comes out with a shaving cream that smells really good. You might want to try it. That doesn't mean that you still don't love the shaving cream that you sell, but you might want to try perfume, right? How many different kinds of perfumes are there out there, right? I'm sure that a NARS makeup artist has a few other brands in her pouch somewhere.
Somewhere. So what's going on with the Swing Fit?
Nothing right now. That business really, I was the prime content provider for that business. And I was working on developing other trainers when all of this stuff kind of happened. and that probably would have been put on hold anyway because of COVID, right? So I think that would have happened regardless. But I would love to get back to swing fit somehow. It's a long tail thing for me at the moment. I have a lot of work to do.
So swing fit is for develop your swinging ability.
It is not for developing your swinging ability. It is a workout that is designed around people who swing for a sport. So I'm not going to improve necessarily your swing. You got to go to a baseball coach and learn how to swing right. You got to go to your golf instructor and learn how to improve your swing. What I am going to do is train your muscles so that they fire appropriately. So when they swing, they're going to swing more efficiently and you'll get a better result.
So you can have ice hockey, lacrosse, baseball,
tennis,
golf,
even football quarterbacks, right?
What's been the reaction so far with that?
Well, everybody shut down anyway. And I do get some requests for it. I still do. I've had some schools reach out to me actually about integrating it. And I've told them the truth. Like, I can't show you how to work the program. Like, I don't have that capability.
The initial weight, how much was the initial weight of the item?
They're 2, 4, and 6 pounds.
2, 4, and 6 pounds.
Which sounds very light, but you swing that for 45 minutes, 4 pounds gets very heavy, very, very, very quickly. In fact, I never used the 6 pounds except for myself. I never let anybody use them.
What do you call that thing? It's like a martial arts training club thing. Do you know this thing?
There's a couple of different ones out there now. There's ones that look like spears. There's ones that have like a big iron ball at the end. There's ones with a shifting weight inside of it, which is what I used, because those are for rotational movement because of the shifting weight. There's a ton of products out there. I don't know all of them. I'm not familiar with all of them. I know that there are people who use them in their training programs. I just I'm honestly not familiar with them anymore.
So my thing with the podcast is developing a platform to give people a voice so that we can connect more with each other and really think more critically about how we can have a more sustainable life going forward. Mm-hmm. Live in a world that, we're not waiting for it to get better and we're actually doing something. I think we've gotten so comfortable with the brokenness in our world. And I really try to open up the conversation to see if we can get that ball rolling a little faster. And I think entrepreneurism is one of the keys to making life better for ourselves and transitioning from large corporations not prioritizing the community. We really have to do something about that, because in the end we're taking money away from ourselves by paying out of the community to corporations.
I think that entrepreneurs will always have their place in the world. I think there's a lot of creativity out there. I think there's a lot of untapped creativity out there. And I think that one thing that is coming out of, this whole pandemic situation is that people, in being at home, have had a chance to explore their creativity a little more because there wasn't anything else to explore, And again, I think it kind of separated the world a bit, right? There were the people who kind of went into their shell or strictly technology. And then there are the people who took that time and explored themselves, like took the time to develop themselves. And those types of people, that was that way already. Right. So there are those people who were always the go-getters, right? The people that were out there making stuff happen, and then there were the people who they just wanted to do the same thing every day. They didn't want to be challenged. They wanted to be told what to do. And that's fine. There's a place for everybody, right? I'm not knocking those people. I'm just saying that there's different kinds of people. And I think what you're talking about is just more accentuated right now, because people are coming out of their homes now and saying, well, look what I was thinking about, or it opened up an entirely new marketplace, right? Like, I mean, work at home businesses. I mean, every time I go to my feed, every time I go and look at my stories, somebody's selling something else, right? I mean, social selling is the wave of the future. Direct selling is the wave of the future. And I don't think that at least in our lifetime, traditional sales is going to go away. I just don't. I think it's going to be there unless our product chain collapses for some reason, which I don't think is going to happen. It's always going to be there. It's just that more people are very happy with their new lifestyle. They're happy being able to stay home more. And I think that those corporations that do have people on salary are realizing, wow, you don't have to be sitting here and me watching you every second of every day. You're actually intelligent enough to get your work done without me watching you work. Like, I think that that's freeing unto itself for some people who do want to stick to their jobs, right? Like, look, I can sit at home and I can be equally as productive. And I know that I can do that because I've done it for years. I did it when it was uncool to do it, right? So I think that you're onto something. I think it'll just be interesting to watch over the next year what the evolution really is. And in the meantime, people need to sort of decide how they want to live, right? Do they want to go back to an office, or do they want to sort of live this hybrid life that we all live now?
Well, you definitely want to have more contact with home, more contact with the outside, less commuting time. I think we all want that.
Well, I think people always wanted that. It's just that now it's attainable,
Right.
right? Because again, you get rid of office space, you don't have that expense anymore, right? So, and again, with direct sales companies, because they're not paying for all their thousands of representatives to be sitting in an office, they're saving that money and they're passing that money on, right? With office salaried kind of situation, they have the expense of that office place. A big box store has the expense of that, right? That's why everybody was collapsing their big box stores and their brick and mortars, because it was cheaper just to be online and pay for their corporate office space than for all these stores, right? Same thing. I mean, it's just evolution. It's the evolution of how we work. And I think it's pretty cool.
Now, with your business background and your wheels always turning, what do you think business can do to make things better for humanity right now? I mean, someone would look at Tesla and say, why can't you be more like Tesla? They're building cars to save the environment. What is it that big business can do for humanity, other than keeping us locked away and in front of a screen and those kinds of things? And
that's business to business, right? Like, I mean, it depends on what you're going for, right? Like Tesla, they clearly, their whole model is based around lowering carbon footprints, right? But there are other companies that you can't just shut down and expect them to change their entire business model, right? So, I mean, I think that it starts with freedom to the workers, right? So, I mean, there are people who are still coal mine workers. There are people who still do all of these things. You can't just ignore them and kick them to the street because they're doing something that you don't like what they do anymore, right? So you have to either create industry and a side industry to those industries that you may not necessarily want to continue. There has to be a place for these people to go, and I don't necessarily, I don't really want to get into the politics of business. But if you're save the planet type, you need to focus on working more with those companies. You need to find your place with those companies, however you want to work, right? And maybe they're more progressive in terms of letting people work from other places. I don't know. I don't know what they do, but that's a really long tail. It's a long tail question. It's a long tail road.
Yeah. I think that whether it's Coca-Cola who sells soft drinks, I think that these corporations can do a lot to help America on its way. And we really have to be forward thinking to think what that is, because if we don't, we're going to get to a point when we don't have customers. So we really have to, you can't just think profiting from customers. You have to think long term and giving something back to the customers so that the customers can continue to thrive, so that they can be your customers.
You know, I mean, everybody wants more customers, right? Nobody wants to kill off their customers, but you know, that's a whole other discussion, I think, to be honest. You know, I don't judge any other company. I really don't judge anybody else's decisions. My goal in my life is to live the best life that I possibly can and provide the best life that I possibly can, and feel good about myself and feel happy. And for me, that started with working from home, and it won't change. I'm never, ever going back into an office, ever. I decided that a long time ago. It's just not going to happen. I'm always going to work for myself. I'm always going to do something like real estate, like savvy. I'm always going to do that. And there are other people who, they need a job. They need to go somewhere, work their 9 to 5. They need that. That's how they feel happy. That's how they feel fulfilled. Yeah. You know, and so I think there's a place for everybody, a place for everything. And I don't know necessarily that there's anything that we can decide right now that's going to change that.
Where would you say your entrepreneurial spirit came from?
I think I came out this way. I don't think anybody necessarily taught me. I just make a horrible employee. So I think this was always going to be my path.
You made your own. That's a great story. I do love your perseverance, your strength, and I love that determination. And you just like, you know what? I'm going to find a way. And I'm sure your son's learning that.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for having me on this. This has been very interesting, and it was great to see you again. Yeah. We'll run again someday.
Yeah, we can. And I hope that I know that you'll continue on your healing journey. And as you continue to be active and keep your brain active, the body has a strong healing power to it. And I would not be surprised for you to hear you have 100% recovery and you're doing handstands and again.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate that. Thank you very, very much.
And I would love to partner with you going forward on some business ideas and maybe borrow some of your business knowledge.
Sure, reach out. You know where to find me.
Yeah, I'm definitely, one thing that I'm really working on is I think that consumers can get paid more for their viewership. And the average one of us, when we use Facebook and when we use Instagram, they're making advertising dollars from us using it. And I think people can get paid for them using apps, them being on the internet. And I do think that is the future, being paid to use the internet instead of paying to use an internet to show you ads.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I'm working on a business model to put that together, and something where that when you do see an ad, you're not paying a third party to show you the ad. You're seeing the ad, so whatever ad revenue they paid to show the ad, you get a cut of that. I think that's where we're going to be in the future.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just gave it away. I think anyone who's really smart, who sees what's happening, I mean, it would be a nightmare to Facebook and Google. But the reality is, you know, what Facebook and Google does, they should be paid, but we are half of the product. You know, they may.
Unfortunately, you're talking about the giants, and the giants aren't gonna. Well, that's a whole other conversation. But thank you for having me. I do appreciate it. I always appreciate time to tell my story. So I appreciate
and I'm definitely gonna get some savvy stuff. So you have to show me some men pieces, and I'll definitely put in an order for sure.
Oh, I appreciate that. We haven't put out our men's line yet, but it's coming.
Yeah, make sure, because I need I need something, maybe some tights in a bright color.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, and I just entered the lottery for the New York City Marathon.
Excellent.
Not the lottery, but I had a guaranteed entrance
Oh,
for.
you do? Mm,
So it's kind of like a lottery now because I think there's a ton of people there.
right.
It's going to be a reduced field, so I still have my hat in to run. If not,
How many are they doing now? Is it like 20,000 instead of 50,000 or whatever it was?
I didn't see the official announcement,
Oh,
but it's going to
I was
be,
just curious.
yeah, probably something lower, and I probably won't get in this year. And I have my heart set. I'm trying to do a half marathon in Atlanta in
Mhm.
October. And after that, I would like to come back to Miami to run something after that. End of January, they have that thing.
Oh, cool. Awesome. I will not be running a race. I was done running races anyway. Like even before this whole thing, I've run plenty of races. I'm done.
You've reached your limit.
Yes, I'm done.
Thank you, Melissa. I'm gonna put a link up and show some of your pieces. Okay.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Do you want me just to send you the link? I'll just send it to you.
Yeah, you can send me stuff for sure.
Okay,
Thank
cool.
you for taking the time on today. I was gonna ask, how was Cancun?
It was amazing.
Weather, everything was great.
The weather was beautiful. The people were beautiful. The place was beautiful. It was an amazing 5 days. It truly was.
And it was
Life-changing, amazing 5 days.
a nice break from COVID and being locked
Well,
down.
I live in Florida. It's a little different here. We really live our lives here. We don't live in fear. We don't live in a panic. We live, which is why I love it here. I'm not judging anybody at all. Let me be perfectly clear about that. But this atmosphere, like we live.
Did you do the vaccine?
I did.
When'd you get it?
Got it earlier this year, where I have my cancer treatment. They got us all vaccinated.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I just did mine this week.
How you feeling?
I have a little bit of a frog in my throat. Had a little runny nose starting last night. I did it on Monday, so that was Wednesday, and I think I'll be fine.
Is that your first one?
Yeah. I definitely feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll definitely keep the wheels turning, and I do appreciate you sharing your story. Going forward, I'm going to be doing some panels on a lot of different things. So I'll definitely keep you in the loop. And
yeah, let me know. If I can help out, I absolutely will.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And thank you for taking the time today. Appreciate
Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste.